I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education. Before we stand for the pledge of the flag, I would like to kind of share with you, you may have noticed last meeting and this meeting that we have done a little reorganization of our seating and our presentation area. And our intent here is to create a good conversational space that we can hear from our presenters and discuss what our issues are and our challenges are and how we will address those. So we're going to ask this evening, if you do have public comment, either during the public comment session or during an action item, that you come up to the center microphone here. You can either stand or sit, whichever you feel most comfortable. We do believe that we all have the best interests of our students and our teachers and our staff and our community at heart, and we want to create that conversational space so we can address those in a way that we can all move forward together to address those issues and be a better community and a better district because of it. So that's the intent. We may refine it as we go along to see what works best, but for now we believe this could be a real helpful way to build that communication. So thank you for working with us on that, and with that we will have the Pledge of Allegiance by Brody Zay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. That brings us to item 1, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes?
No changes.
Then we will adopt the agenda as presented and move into the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of January 31st and the special and regular meetings of January 18th. If there are no changes, they will stand as presented, and we will move to programs and presentations. And our first presentation this evening is on alternate education redesign. Mr. Cosner.
Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. I'm John Cosner. I'm the principal of alternative education at our local adult school and alternative high school, Mesquite. And I'm really excited to share with you some ideas that have been floating in our district regarding things we believe that our community may desire and may enrich or expand our current offerings and services. But I know one of the critical pieces of that is acknowledgement and recognition of the board that this is a direction they believe to invest in and that the community is asking for and that will best serve students. So we know there are many challenges before us, and right now the state is perhaps most strongly struggling with a declining enrollment. We're one of the few districts that is not feeling that as heavily, as well as chronic absenteeism. In some ways, we've been able to get a front of the 8 ball on that with the declining enrollment, but we know we're struggling with absenteeism. And we're wondering how we could respond as a district and staff to meet the changing needs, especially post-COVID, of what our community has access to and what they might want. 2 things that strike me are we have a very rich religious community, for example, and people that are leaving our district because we don't have programs that quite meet the need that they're looking for and what their families' intricacies might be asking of us. We also have a wonderful opportunity, perhaps like never before, to partner with some new grants and expanding opportunity with Saracoso, and both in a facilities as well as a articulation of curriculum, not just for college, but career readiness. And we see some wonderful research that correlates with even a few classes at the high school level of how much that can project students into a wonderful career path with higher earnings and levels of happiness and lower mental health needs. I spoke of this a little bit already. So as you mentioned earlier, Mr. Ferris, there is, I like to think each of us here has a primary directive of serving students in the community. I, like many of us, grew up in this community and were raised by the public public education institution in large part and have benefited from the wealth of experience and capability that we offer. But we also realize with the changing world, we will lose some of that unless we grow with it. And there are so many opportunities that are arising that we want to make sure to stay apprised of that. We see that our A through G eligibility is a challenge, and that might be one place where we could dovetail some of these changes, in addition to, as I said, the college and career readiness in the various pathways that we might offer. In the right corner and the digital version of this, there are a wealth of information. I won't go into all of the research articles that show higher earnings, likelihood of being able to go to college, and other career or tech institutional outlets. But needless to say, there's a wealth of research that indicates that. In this slide, there's a lot present, and what I'm going to try to touch on is only an idea, that this is not concrete, that I'm saying we must do this, but what I'm saying is there are some pathways that others have done and found great success, and here are some early conversations that we might figure out how that might work for us, our students, and our staff to leverage our resources to maximize student outcomes. We see three main paths in this particular slide. Independent study, which right now exists as a program within various schools, but under this model, it could be its own school with its own CDS code, serving in a rich way and unique to perhaps integrate even across other schools and programs to maximize family need and integration with the other programs across the district we offer. The middle path is called a middle college. I think that's new to many of us in this room, but has been done elsewhere, where students in a specific cohort are able to take college classes specifically aligned in pathways throughout their high school career to end in valuable outcomes, sometimes as much as having a complete AA by the end of the track, or sometimes merely dabbling in one course at a time and completing a specific pathway because they're interested in a healthcare field or welding or some other higher learning institution or trade school that requires some level of post-high school engagement. The last one we have in our district in the form of Mesquite High School, but one of the ways we might best leverage these changes is some integration between these three programs to have teacher expertise in the realm of a master's to teach perhaps a dual enrollment course, and then also be facilitating perhaps a regular high school ed course, and then maybe teaching a cohort of students that are online in some other courses. And so there might be some neat flexible ways between these three programs. The continuation high school would have to be its own CDS code due to requirements so we don't accidentally paint ourselves into a corner. And on this slide, we see that our focus here, we know that learning to read is so critical and hard to do online that the independent study school would likely be a focus on the secondary. So it could be, for example, a 7-12 model, which might dovetail well into the new redesign that's coming with our middle schools and our shifting in our elementary program. The middle college specifically would work best likely with a high school level student, especially since we're looking at a college level rigor as we integrate a couple of those courses. And the last model would be for students who are credit deficient and are looking to remediate and help them build back to be able to graduate on time. We know that our continuation school model currently does struggle with helping students graduate on par with other continuation high schools. The capacity here is just an estimate. For example, we could start with one cohort in the middle college and perhaps have a freshman level class and then move up and add cohorts as we saw interest and access grew. The continuation high school currently resides at about 100 students, but that could flex an accordion based on need, especially if we had teachers that were working across multiple CDS codes and helping students in a flexible manner. And then the independent study school would perhaps have the highest flexibility in numbers. I just grabbed right now what our projection would be with our current growth right now with no other addendums into next year. We always have a slightly smaller program at the beginning of the year and then grow pretty significantly as the year increases. And that was with the original ideology that we were a restricted program primarily to fit medical need in the community. But I imagine this number would blossom successfully if we were to take off that restriction and have a capacity to grow more thoroughly. We see there where it says mode days, each of those could be flexible depending on a decision. So my vision is that some committee, after acknowledgement, if you believe this is the direction we should go, would form and begin work on what this might actually look like. And so I put kind of placeholders there for hybrid and flex. There are models that go for the full allotted time in a middle college, 180 minutes, and there are some that do a hybrid model, and there are others that meet only on certain days, and they're expected in their college courses or other program needs on other days. And so based on the program purposeful design, we could look at what that does to best serve our students and our families. And the bottom there, you may be familiar with, there's recent legislation that has created some flexibility, especially in the continuation branch, to allow students in struggling circumstances to not meet all of the standard traditional high school requirements, but then through homelessness or other needs in a transfer, be able to meet their needs more quickly to graduate with their cohort. And that's what that number on the bottom right is indicating. This is an example of the model that is probably most new to our district, is the middle college route. So this projects what a student could look to obtain his or her schedule as they proceed through the 4 years of high school. The idea is most of the core content could be high school classes with a support class and a college course, starting usually with just a 3-unit course, often something like college success, to get that first one under their belt and see if they're ready for that college level rigor. And then as they demonstrate that capability and success, to build both more rigorous courses and potentially more of them. You see, just like at high school, the rigor increases. And one of the other pieces that could be valuable here is we're not limited merely to that one college course if you were to do dual enrollment in some of those other advanced math, science, and English courses that would also be available to our students. This is a potential timeline if we wanted to dovetail this process into the current reimagining of our district as we focus where our middle school students and our elementary students are. By opening August 2025, we would need to begin here with this presentation, build a team to look at what those structures would look like, and come back to the board for approval. Then we would begin a process where we would recruit and get community interest and the students to get specific staffing needs. We would finalize operations and then be able to open successfully in August 2025. So the main buckets of work before us in order to undertake this would be first, create that group to design pathways that would work for our district and our students and our staff. Then figure out what that structure in the school day would look like for students, how we would optimize our hybrid and digital programs, as well as college facilities and other district facilities. And lastly, we would want to design, now that we know what we want that to look like, what would those staffing, would determine what those staffing positions would entail in order to best meet those student needs. And we could then, we have a current digital curriculum, but we may find through our process that there's something else that better serves that new innovative need. And so that last task would be, what curriculum, digital or otherwise, do we implement some amalgamation of the two to give our students the expanded opportunity. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier that I'd like to bring up is we have found for us in our students who have left our community but would still like to be a part of it, one of the things that might be an option is perhaps athletics or some other opportunity that was not available to them before. They're now a district, and as long as they're not supplanting a student that is in person at that site, as enrollment allows, we could then use that perhaps as a recruitment tool to bring students back to our district that have left to be a part of one of these programs and our robust co-curricular opportunities that we offer and do so well.
Thank you, Mr. Cosner. This is not an action item, it is for discussion, but we would love to know what questions and interests you may have. And if there seems to be some interest, we would love to move forward. And as Mr. Cosner mentioned, we want to move forward collaboratively. But before we went too far down that path, we just wanted to do a check-in and see if this seems like it might meet a need. As we've been researching, talking to community and parents, we believe that this may be filling a need in our community.
Any questions or comments from board members?
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Under independent study, you put down days flex. Can you define what you mean by
Certainly.
flex?
Currently, our independent study program is 100% virtual. Students may come in for tutoring, but we may decide that we want or may create a structure where we begin to require some in-person time based on how well the student is doing. Some programs even do versions where if the student is not there, because it's a school of choice, they then send them back to an in-person, hoping to regain engagement that they haven't had success in that program. And so I put flex there because anywhere from 100% distance to multiple days a week, it could entail.
Right, and I'll just give an example. We could find that maybe a ninth grade math group meets Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 o'clock, right? So that's an example of what the flex could be. If they're on their own, doing fine, they may not need to come in, but those that need that extra support, we could actually have a structure that they could take advantage of.
Yeah, I remember it used to be 1 hour a day, and they've kind of gone away from that since COVID. They never went back to that afterwards.
And I think we find that some families like and are successful in that 100% away. And so really what the purpose of this redesign would be is what maximizes family need and the student success.
Now, you have one campus right now for independent study. You have it over at Mesquite, correct?
Yes, technically each of those students is housed in their home school, but the teachers are on the Mesquite campus.
Would you have more than one campus if it grew and got bigger since you're going to 7 through 12? I mean, I think it's 7 through 12 right now, isn't it? Or is it just 9?
It actually goes a little bit younger.
It does, right?
We may not remove the program need because we do see that there are some medical needs for students that otherwise wouldn't have access to the district in the way that they would like in the younger ages. But this focus would be the older because we find that for the littles, best learning is often in person, and that's probably not a good default for most of them. I think one of the things that is really valuable is we're increasing partnerships with Saracoso, looking at perhaps having some classes at our sites in off times or up at their site as facilities are available. And so both of those might be a great option for us.
And I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that President Hancock from Saracoso is in the audience today in support, and they are engaged and very open to these conversations as well. So we appreciate their support.
And thank you for being here tonight.
I saw that in the middle college, you called it a support class. Can you define a support class?
Absolutely. And the reason I use that language rather than a specific course, there are university like 101 courses taught in various places. AVID is sometimes the example. I use that more generic language because I didn't know yet what we would decide that looked like, but in a middle college build, many schools purposefully put an elective that is valuable curriculum in addition to being a purposeful house for additional support for students, knowing they're accessing more rigorous than standard content.
I remember they used to start with PD 101, I think it was. Personal development, I think, would that be considered a support class or not, or is that a college?
I believe there are a couple at the college. Some of them are non-credit, like there are some dovetails with English and math, the first class you take. There are also 4-credit classes, like a career exploration course. And like I said, we have, the nice thing is we get to choose what that looks like. We may decide to make it a non-college course and go an AVID route, which is a college preparedness for the underserved. One of the pieces I realized I didn't speak to is there was a part of the slide where it says 70-30 hit, and one of the concerns sometimes in programs like this is that you are siphoning top performing students from an institution. And with this particular build, the desire would be to create access for students that wouldn't otherwise have that soft structure to be able to be successful in an environment, transportation, any number of things. And so the goal would be perhaps by a GPA metric, to target only the top performer GPAs will be a 30%, but the 70% would be the middle of the road, those who could capable of, but wouldn't classically have access to a college experience or a pre or college articulated experience.
Thank you for your presentation.
My pleasure.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
John,
Ms.
what would
Campbell.
it look like for our teachers now, like if we implement this?
That is a great question, and perhaps the piece that is most in flux. I would be remiss if I said this is what we were going to do, because instead we can do many things, and it kind of might look at what talent pool we may have to draw upon, what degrees people have, who applies for a position, what times and days we think it looks like, how many in a cohort may be, to either have multiple subject teachers or a teacher who can do multiple subjects, depending on how big or small we want the program to be. I speculate we would probably scale small and build up rather than try to bite off more than we could chew.
Correct, yeah, great.
And one of the benefits of housing all of this under alternative education is that we can leverage staff across the 3 pathways that we have. So as we grow, let's say we grow with a 9th grade cohort in a middle college model, like Mr. Cosner mentioned, we may leverage staff to teach in various pathways, and as a pathway grows, maybe they get staff only in there because there's enough demand or interest. But we'd be able to be flexible and still have lots of opportunity for our students.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Rockwell? The center right there. You want to use this one?
Thank you. Are there going to be technology classes that I could join? No, yeah, thank you. I got the teenager over here doing my tech. First of all, great. I mean, I think that opportunities for choice, different ways to get education are important. I mean, I think we have tools today that we didn't have 5, 10, 15 years ago, and we should take advantage of those. We have, we've learned a lot about how to deliver education, and, again, finding new ways to do it are great. And I think that I'm 100% in favor of, kind of going down this research path to try to figure out what the best way is to do this kind of thing. It does, you've kind of done the easy part, I think, so far. I mean, you probably put a ton of work into it, and I appreciate that. But, how you take, the notion and turn it into reality in a way that will, clearly deliver a beneficial opportunity to students and provide, broader opportunities for staff as well to maybe do some different things that may, energize them, may give them new things to do that they haven't done before, but maybe that they've wanted to. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds and how we kind of merge the, addressing the needs of our staff with the needs of our students to kind of maximize that educational benefit and that professional development and the professional sort of, I guess, passion that that we'd like everybody to have. So good stuff, but I'll be looking really hard at where we go from here because it's got to be good. So thanks.
It was interesting when I was the independent study instructor. Certain students were there, and they were there. They said yes, medical terms and so forth. But certain students were there because they just didn't want to be at the other school. And it was amazing to see some of them that they got kind of moving, and they thought, oh, I can graduate quicker. I can get through this. Boom, boom, boom. And I just love the idea that students have more than one option because we try and put these students in one area. And, I love Burroughs High School. I graduated from Burroughs High School. It's a great school. But this day and age, there's just, I love the idea where students get the opportunity to find the area that fits them, and they can go. And it's amazing how it just, this one kid I had, it just turned her on to really get going and finish, because she wanted to move on in her life. And it was a great thing. So I like what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Brody?
I wanted to ask if you've like polled for like student interest in this at all, or if you haven't, would you be willing to?
Absolutely. I think one of the next critical steps in this is the community engagement process, because we believe kind of in a soft method. We didn't want to put the cart before the horse, and we recognize that with the governing bodies nod in the right direction, we wanted that before we solicited too much concrete information and made the process more real. But yes, one of the next critical steps is that exact engagement.
Thank you, Brody.
And
Mr.
just
Scott.
beating the same drum. I mean, we learned a long time ago that not every student was successful in the traditional school. You know, not every student's going to be in that cookie cutter mold. And I'm excited about this. I think the more variety, I think I think we've seen that getting outside that box, we can probably draw more students on in. So thanks.
I guess I would just, rather than repeat everything everyone said, just agree that, times are changing, the world is changing, that there's an unmet need out there. I'm excited that we're looking to address this need, and I'm specifically excited about the approach, the open-minded, open-ended approach that says, okay, there are a lot of things we can do here. What will best serve our community and our students, and how can we be most effective? Let's do the homework. Let's don't go in with a set agenda that says this is how we're going to do it, but what can we really accomplish? And assessing our resources too, and say, often we look at something we want to do, and then when we look at resources, we go, well, yeah, that's just not an option. So I think it sounds to me like you've got strong support from the board to move forward with this. Are there any questions or comments from members of the community, the public?
I would like to add one more thing that I think speaks to that well. Is a mentor recently told me that we cannot do everything, but with what we have, we can do anything. And I think that's exactly right. We need to find what that anything is that the community is asking of us.
Thank you, Mr. Gosner. Okay, there are no public hearings, so that brings us to reports and communications. Student members report. Brody.
From Murray Middle School. We want to congratulate Murray's robotics team. They went to a tournament this past weekend, and with a very close score of 120 to 119 in the final match, they won the tournament championship. On February 9th, the Avid classes took a trip to Bakersfield to watch the Bakersfield Condors game, which was a thrilling experience hearing from the students who went. Murray basketball is going strong. They're excited for the Kern County tournament coming up for the 8th grade basketball teams. In recognition of the many teams and activities we have at Murray, a spirit rally will be held on February 23rd. Coaches from cross country, volleyball, and basketball, and robotics will join us in the celebration. February 2nd was dance time at Murray. The theme was Alice in Wonderland. The cafeteria was super snazzy with the sparkling effects of the Hanging Garden, Wonderland Enchantment. Many students dressed to the theme. A good time was had by all. In addition, another life-enhancing field trip occurred on January 29th to UCLA with AVID and CJSF students. They got to learn about the UCLA through a student who attends the school. The student leader shared incredible insight as to why we might pursue that school later in life. One of our students said that UCLA is an amazing place to visit, from its iconic campuses to its accepting and open scholarships, so anyone can get in. After that, we visited the campus of this beautiful university. A new teacher was welcomed to the family of Murray. Miss Rosa is the replacement of Mrs. Morozic for 8th grade science classes. She is quickly adapting to her new role. Math intervention and advisory is kicked off today. Kids needing extra help will have that opportunity in a smaller group setting. We are looking forward to many other events as well. Our second variety show will showcase many Murray talents on March 22nd. Our junior Olympiads are gathering now in preparation for Junior Olympics in April. Also in April is our highly anticipated Touch of Class week. The board, Sierra Sands Cabinet, and past Murray ASB students will be invited April 10th to a special luncheon with our student body. The Touch of Class dance will be held April 12th. Murray has a lot to offer to the students and opportunities to expand their middle school experience. From Monroe Middle School. February is here and we are cruising through the school year. Following last month's board meeting, we've been able to celebrate some amazing James Monroe Tigers. At our award ceremony for first semester success, we recognized 167 Tigers for honor roll with a GPA of 3.5 or above, and there were 35 Tigers with perfect attendance for the first half of the school year. 4 students completed projects or experiments for the science fair on January 25th. They are now working on taking their projects to the next level and participating in the Kern County Science Fair later this spring. The district spelling bee winner, Garrett Slayton, is a 7th grader from James Monroe. His winning word was waffle. His mom shared that he was a shoo-in with any word that was food-related. We are so proud of him and hope he picked some incredible titles to add to his personal library. Love was in the air last week for the Cupid Shuffle Valentine's Dance. Our Tigers loved hanging out with their friends, talking, dancing, and eating as much junk food as possible. Looking forward to what the next month will bring as our Tigers continue to be on the rise. From Mesquite. Over the last month, we have graduated 3 more students, bringing our total to 17 for the year. At the end of last month, Mesquite held an assembly to recognize semester accomplishments for honor roll with a GPA of greater than 3.5, and merit roll with a GPA of greater than 3.0, and perfect attendance. In addition, students who just reached 30 more and out the door received a t-shirt to show off how close they are to graduation. 8 more guitars arrived for Mrs. O'Connell's new music class this semester, so the class is bursting with interest. To help cultivate interest and experience, at the end of this month, the Ridgecrest Chamber Music Society will be bringing a performance to the students. In the spirit of domestic violence awareness, students had a special presentation from the Women's Center about healthy relationships, warning signs, and how to seek help. Students also wore orange for the Spirit Day to show solidarity in supporting the well-being of one another. Back on the 30th, our post-graduation series continued with the University Technical Institute presenting to students opportunities in the field of mechanics for everything that transports people and things. On Wednesday the 14th, the State Treasurer's Office helped students access special funding they can access when they enroll in an institution of higher learning. Staff helped impart to students that no money is free, but that society values them in their future, and this is a great form of investment. Go Dragons, show them how to soar. And from Burroughs. Burroughs is off to a great start in the second semester. We enjoyed many fun activities and events. The varsity girls basketball team won first place in league this season and won their first round playoff game against Valencia High School. They played well in the second round game against Saugus, but unfortunately came up a little short. In wrestling, Sarah Green and Malachi Lutu advanced to CIF sectionals along with 4 alternates. Braden Green finished 6th in his weight class. Our other winter sports have wrapped up their seasons. Our spring sports teams began practices in January and continue to prepare for their seasons. We look forward to seeing our athletes compete in track, basketball, softball, swim, golf, and boys tennis. 2 weeks ago, we held our winter rally, which was themed after classic board games. Students had a lot of fun, and the teachers did a dance with varsity cheer. Students also enjoyed a week full of spirit days. The King of Hearts dance was a blast with an amazing DJ and great decorations. Leo Vasquez was crowned this year's King of Hearts. Next month, we look forward to another Spirit Day leading up to the spring rally, which is themed We Got the Beat. The Spirit Days will be based on songs. Yearbook and news writing are hard at work meeting deadlines for this year's yearbook production and the school's blockbuster newspaper, respectively. The Burroughs drama students are also working together to get ready for the spring play, Charlotte's Web.
Thank you, Brody. That brings us to reports from members of the board. Anyone have anything they'd like to share? I guess I'd just like to report that I had more opportunity to visit some of our schools, and it is certainly enlightening and exciting. It's enlightening to see how many new challenges arrive every day, and it is exciting to see how hard the staff is working to try and figure out exactly how to meet those challenges and to enhance what we offer to our students to provide them a full-rounded educational opportunity. So thank you for allowing me to visit your campuses and see your work. It's outstanding and impressive. Brings us to a superintendent's report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. So our month 5 enrollment is 5,050 students. We're down 12 from this time last year, but we've been maintaining our overall attendance at 91%. So thank you to our school teams and staff who are working with students and families to ensure our students are in school, ready to learn. Later on the agenda, I would just like to honor and recognize the many individuals listed on the personnel reports who have spent their career with us and have decided to retire at the end of this year. It's a remarkable list of individuals, and I know we'll be recognizing them at the end of the year, but just wanted to call that out to mention. Our students, our families, and our community are better because they chose to serve in education, and I look forward to celebrating them later this year in our formal events. I'd like to take this opportunity to give a quick update on our mid-year goals. So at the last meeting, you all voted to approve the goals that are behind me and on the screens to the side that we want to keep in the forefront of what we do. And they're similar to what we've had previous, but we had some intentional revisions and language shifts to make sure that we're focusing on what we all find to be the most important priorities. And so I'd like to just take a moment verbally, it won't be a slide presentation, but just some highlights of what we're doing in each of these areas. So for the academic program, you see the sentence there, the descriptor. Last month, Dr. Savko gave us an update on how we did last year and the dashboard data. And so this year, though, we've been focused there, and as you saw, and are helping us add a few administrative positions to help us focus and support this goal and support the teachers and the staff at our school sites. We also approved Mod Severe Classroom Curriculum, Teachtown, earlier this year that is being implemented across the district in our moderate to severe classes, students with IEPs. And we also have been making progress, our students are making progress on the interim assessments that we give at multiple grade levels in elementary school, and we're seeing many bright spots. And so one of the things that we're doing is working with our team at the district level, and we have project TOSAs at each of the school sites who are saying, okay, if we're finding this great success in, I'll throw out example, 3rd grade reading and literature, how do we bring that success to the other grade levels or to the other schools across the district? And so we're looking at maximizing those bright spots and the success that we're finding. And we're also finding in our secondary schools, the PLCs that are working together well are getting results. And so we're optimistic about the growth that we're looking for, but we also know that staffing is a key component. And I'm looking forward to next year in this area. Next week in this area, we'll be doing a data review with both the middle schools and the high school teams on high school readiness data. How are we preparing our middle school students to be ready for high school? And then A through G audit is one of the many ways we're looking at how are we preparing our students for life beyond. And we heard about A through G a little bit earlier in Mr. Cosner's presentation. So in student engagement, we're also doing quite a bit, and we've heard throughout this year our implementation of capturing kids' hearts, building relationships with staff and students and student to student. That is a big part of how we're engaging students to be ready for learning. And we wanted to just remind that we continue to have digital access at home for our families with our private LTE, our network that we provide to families who need it. So those are just a couple of highlights that are continuing. And we're monitoring suspensions because that was one of those data points under student engagement, and we're finding bright spots and looking to maximize how are we working with student behaviors, doing a lot of prevention with capturing kids' hearts, but when a behavior happens, how are we responding, and how do we bring that student back in a productive way as quickly as possible for the learning without disrupting the classroom. For goal 3, Community and family engagement, we've added several ways to engage our families, and we've been working with our superintendent's council, parents and administrators and staff who are part of that to look at that communication component. And so we've added Peach Jar as a way to get flyers out to our families, and most recently the Let's Talk button on our website that allows anyone, anonymous or with their name, to share a suggestion, to ask a question, and so we can have that two-way dialogue. Of course, they can call, they can go to the schools, but if they have a question on what are we doing about this, or how do I do this, they can just ask a question that way. It works well on a mobile device as well as a laptop, and that gets routed directly to the appropriate staff member to respond and make sure that we're interacting positively with our community. We're working with the Ridgecrest Regional Hospital to expand medical services on our campuses and wellness, including staff wellness, and we have a series going for both students, families, and staff this month. And we are making progress on our community schools planning grant, which is very exciting, and that's one of those positions that you've approved for us to move forward with our community schools program and the grant funds that we have. And I'm going to highlight it under community and family engagement, but you heard earlier this week, Richmond Elementary School was designated a Purple Star school, meeting all the criteria that we offer critical transition supports for our military-connected students and their families, and the CDE calls that, quote, a school most committed and best equipped to meet their unique needs, end quote, for the military-connected families. So we're excited that Richmond is our first school, and we'll be paving the way for our others that will be applying in the next cycle in the fall. A couple highlights in effective instruction and leadership. That's a lot of staffing and development. And we are actively hiring teachers locally and abroad, and we're emphasizing hiring highly qualified, experienced teachers, and we're finding some success already in preparing for next year. Adding those administrative positions in HR to help us focus in this area and make sure we are making the progress and accelerating our timeline. And we have a leadership cohort starting with folks from classified, certificated, and administrators that will be developing our leadership together and helping grow our pipeline internally. And principal professional development as well. We met earlier this month with Captain Vaughn and Jesse Vasquez, our school liaison officer. We kicked off our principal professional development. So we're looking forward to continuing to grow our own leadership team as well as our future leadership. And then finally, with facilities, you've seen and heard many of the work that we're doing here, but to highlight a few, the bus yard has been completed, the preschool playground at Fowler is complete, and we are making progress on Richmond, although slightly delayed with the weather recently. And we're making progress on the Pierce OLDCC grant and bond measure, and we'll be seeing the survey presentation at our next month's regular meeting related to the community survey on the bond. We added a new administrative position that is flying that is designed to help us with these many projects that we have currently and future. And tonight, later on the agenda, we have a proposal for updating the preschool playgrounds at both Pierce and Inyokern for your consideration. So just wanted to take a moment, we don't do this every meeting, but just to highlight how we're doing in these 5 goal areas. Lots to do, and huge thanks to the amazing team that makes that happen. This is not a one person, and I'll just do a nod to our cabinet team that is absolutely incredible and are each championing these very important goals. And then finally, I'm looking forward to next week attending the Economic Outlook Conference hosted by the Ridgecrest Chamber of Commerce, where I have the opportunity to share a brief state of the district, so not quite all those details, but we'll have a 10-minute presentation just updating our community on how the district is doing, and we'll be hearing similar reports from the other leaders, including our city mayor, the Saracoso president, and the installation, Captain Vaughn, will be providing important updates at that, and I'm pleased to represent our district there. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments of Dr. Moore's presentation? From the public? I guess I just want to take a moment to comment that it is clear that there's a lot going on. It's clear that we have a lot on our plate, but it's also clear that a lot of people are working very hard to accomplish good things for our kids, and that's why we're here. So thank you for that update. That brings us to report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association. Ms. Poole, from your new presentation point.
Yeah, I don't like this new presentation plan.
Now, you haven't even tried it yet, so come on, give it a chance.
I like this. I don't like having my back to them, and it's not just because my next career is as a stand-up. Okay, and I recognize that and I'm not kidding about stand-up. I recognize that a lot of places do this, but I don't like that. I'm gonna have to look like this. I liked it over there, and also I fear change. Okay.
I appreciate you adding the real response in the end.
Yeah, also, like, I dress for people to see me from the front, not from the back, so I'm very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Okay, so I wanted to start off since there's a lot going on, and we do have the, somebody from, I forgot the greeting, I always get it wrong anyway, but with all due respect, thank you for having me up here, President Ferris and Superintendent Dr. Moore and Board and all the people over there. So I wanted to begin by saying that my niece, Kelly, graduated in Burroughs in 18 or 19 before COVID hit, and then went to COVID and made a point of taking classes on campus because she didn't trust herself being online. And then, surprise, COVID hit and she was online. But I wanted to say she did her 2 years at COSO, and she's now at Chico State, and she got her first semester grades, and she's on the dean's list. And I'm not saying that just to brag, but I really appreciate what Burroughs does and what COSO does. Okay, that's the friendly stuff. So here are a few things that have, I read the board packet, and it's always different when you see it up here. So it wasn't that long ago when there was a talk about changing how the board is, right? Going from
Trustee areas.
Trustee, right. And there was this comment about us being homogenous. And then tonight, everything is about, no, let's, reach out to everybody. But when it came to maybe, changing who sits here and we reach out to other people, it didn't seem to be quite as enthusiastic. And I'm talking about the presentation, and I know it's about Mesquite and not every school in the district, but I just need to ask, have any of y'all been in a 9th grade classroom recently or ever? And I feel like you haven't, because anybody that would say, hey, let's have 9th graders take a college course is just not getting it. I haven't had a classroom of 9th graders. Some of my drama classes tend to be a lot of 9th graders, and I love my little 9th graders, and I'm so proud of them in drama, and they do things and accomplish things that testing will never show. And my little heart swells with pride at what these kids have accomplished. They're not ready for college. 10th graders aren't ready for college. Generally speaking, are there exceptions? Yes, but I don't think you were really talking about exceptions. And I know that in general talk, it hasn't been limited to just Mesquite. That there is this idea, for some reason that's incomprehensible to me, that high school kids should be earning college credit. And I don't, first of all, college is college because it's not high school. We are not in a class with high school kids. The teacher isn't beholden to a college person, a college professor only has to publish, right? They don't care if you get it or not. High school is very different. And to call a class being taught on a high school campus and you can show up in your spirit clothes, that's not really college. I've been to college. Some of these people out here have been to college. I think all of you. But I don't think that we're really understanding that college is not high school. And while I get that there are kids who can't afford college, and if we can get some kids who didn't think they can go to college, we can get them ready, like that's great. But I also get the feeling that that's not really the demographic that we're necessarily going after. Also, I'm not sure if you're aware of what it's like to teach in Sierra Sands day after day, right? We all like our jobs. There are really big behavior problems, and then there's a lot of apathy. And at the Wednesday collaboration with the English department, we talked about how do you get kids to read novels? And we've got, the English department they're pretty good at Burroughs, and we've got a lot of really experienced teachers who are super passionate about what we do. And we've got kids like, yeah, I mean, kids who told me, I'm not going to read the book, Miss Full, I'm not going to do that. I don't know how we get there. And I don't know how we get from, I'm not picking up the book, to, hey, let's give them college credit. And I talked on my phone during this presentation and over the years, and I haven't yet found a colleague, a data member, who's like, yeah, let's do college for our high school kids. So I think we need to figure out why we're rushing to get kids who don't know how to function in K-12 to college, right? We have capturing kids' hearts so that we can really tune into kids and help them. And then we're like, send them off to college. And I don't really understand what that is all about. As I said, with the exception of like helping that demographic of kids who really need it. Also, there's a teacher shortage. So saying teachers have to do more seems to me maybe not the greatest time to take care of that. We've got, classrooms that are too big. Teachers aren't getting enough support. We've got classrooms where, we don't have everyone in there that we're supposed to have as far as paras. And now we're talking about let's run kids off to college. So in case I haven't been clear, not a big fan. And I've checked, as I said, I've yet to find data members who are there. We're going to do what we have to as teachers because we really care. And I know that y'all really care. I never doubt that. Don't doubt it at all. I think sometimes there's that discrepancy between the people who are in the classroom every day and then the people who aren't. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your passion and your information. That brings us to report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association. Ms. Payanis.
I don't like this either. I liked over there. Okay. Hello, Board, President, school board members, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff, and community. Last month, the librarians from Gateway, Burroughs, Monroe, Murray, and Kern and Fowler were able to attend the California Schools Library Association Conference in Costa Mesa. We definitely enjoyed this time as we were able to collaborate not only in person among ourselves, but alongside other librarians in California. A poll was taken at the conference and was asked if the attendance, travel expenses were paid for by their districts or personally. And unfortunately, not everyone was as lucky as we were to be fully funded. We would like to say thank you for allowing us to be able to attend and be fully funded by the district. It was very much appreciated. During our meeting on Tuesday, we discussed and voted on the proposal we have to present to the district for negotiations. We once again discussed the fact that we have positions that are being filled by outside contracted vendors. They're being paid at a higher hourly rate, and that has our employees upset. The question was asked, why are we wasting money contracting out versus offering more pay to our employees? Many of our full-time employees have to have second jobs to make ends meet. We need to do better than minimum wage. We need to do a livable wage. As we head into negotiations, we're hoping to creatively put some work onto our pay scale. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. But at this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, but if appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the center spot here and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time of public comment to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. Thank you.
Hi, is there a script on how to address you guys?
You just address us. Identify yourself and go
Hi.
for it.
Okay, hello, good evening. My name is Yasmin Garcia. I have 3 kids that I've been through Sierra Sands School District. My oldest graduated in 2017. My youngest right now is a 3rd grader at Richmond Elementary. Super, super happy with her teacher, her para. She's special needs, has had seizures since she was 6 weeks old. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Take your time, take a breath, you're fine.
Thank you. I'm super passionate about taking care of her. Hey, thank you. Thank you. So the reason that I'm here today is to address some of the challenges that we have experienced with just some of the things that are going on every time we take her out. The first one is pick-up drop-off for her Richmond. Again, I love her school, love everything about it, but pick-up drop-off is a nightmare. So if I could get somebody to please just take a look at the situation. There's 2 handicap parking spaces right now at the school, and I know that Richmond is under construction, but that is something that I hope that can be taken into consideration is maybe a designated spot, 10, 15 minutes to just grab her and put her in. She's in a wheelchair, so it takes us some time to load her, her and her chair, and it's usually either me or my husband. If it's both of us, you know, we each have a job to do. The other one is just playground equipment for children in wheelchairs. It's really hard to, you know, have her para or another teacher try to get her down the slide. She's very long. She's almost 9 years old, but she's so long and she does not walk. She doesn't talk. She needs all the help that she can get. And then my third thing, and I think that this is really beneficial for the entire community, is wheelchair accessibility at the football field. I don't know if anybody's tried to park at the football field and then push a wheelchair in, but that soft sand is really, really hard to get her through. And I appreciate the new snack bar. I love it. I've worked it. My middle daughter is in softball, so I've worked that softball night, you know, the parent night, and I love it. It's really nice. But there's nowhere for us to watch the game when she's in her wheelchair. So we've done football since she's been a baby, but she's getting to the point where I can't carry her into the stands. And when we do bring her wheelchair, it blocks everything because it does stand out. So it impedes traffic. So I will do anything to raise money, to come up with designs, write grants, whatever you need me to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
If you'd like to work your way over here and sit in these front seats, we can move along quickly that way. Thank you.
Hi, Kathy McCoy, 3rd grade teacher at Pierce, Data Vice President. I would like to go on the record to say I also do not like this. I don't like watching people's backs when they're speaking. And I, again, also feel like I should be addressing everyone. This kind of feels divisive to me. So I just want to say that. I appreciated the visit, Mr. Ferris and Dr. Moore, and I hope that more of you will come visit Pierce and see the good work that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Moore and the board. Here we meet again. And I'm speaking up this time. My name is Karen Reyes, also known as Ms. K. I'm currently employed at James Monroe as a paraprofessional. And the reason I'm speaking is I became employed with the district on April 19th of 2022. Just January 27th of 2024, the district finally increased my hours and put me to full-time, and I currently work with special need children. I work with moderate to severe children at James Monroe in room 61. The job is very demanding, dangerous, but very rewarding. I'm speaking not only for myself, but I'm also speaking on behalf of all the other paraprofessionals, excuse me. We are receiving $16 an hour. Our services that we provide for the district to our students and to the families is our responsibilities and duty consist of significant demands and needs. I'm here standing in front of all of you, asking and pleading for your attention, asking you for your attention and action of mercy to increase the wages of the paraprofessionals for the district. Keep in mind that the fast food chain minimum wage is higher than the school district wage, you know, and their services and their duties and responsibilities are less than what our responsibilities are. Not only do I work on the hour, you know, at work, I leave work and I'm going home just right now. I gotta go make Jello jigglers for our students in room 61, Mrs. Hoya's class. Some of our students were very sick and they couldn't have the Valentine party, so we had to extend it till tomorrow. So not only do we do services, paraprofessionals, for the students and their families in the districts, we do our stuff after hours also. Our students, not only our duties are, I've asked some of you to come and see what we do on a daily basis. Not that I'm complaining, because I have 2 nonverbal students, and this touches my heart. These children don't speak. These children are speaking now. The families come up and they tell me my children are talking. Hi, they're not doing sign language. This is what parents do. We try to come and we help the teachers to help the teachers reach their goals for the IEHPs, for the students, to help them to be able to function in their daily lives. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, good evening. Alice Gilmartin, Murray Middle School, 20 of my 23 years in the district. Recently, I received the SSUSD newsletter sent to staff on February 8th, and I've read and reread the section about the Facilities and Programs Advisory Committee. In that section, it states that 6th grade teachers had enhanced representation on the committee. As a 6th grade teacher on the committee, I'm not sure that enhancement made a difference, or I'm not sure I understand that terminology. The committee had one role, and that was to present the board with a viable elementary-only option to apply for a DoD grant. I realize that funding is important, and the district was up against a looming deadline. However, starting with the buildings instead of the loyal workers inside them sends the wrong message to your staff. I think that the board should know that all conversations about the imminent changes to many of our teaching careers, including mine, have been shut down. There has been no forthcoming information about how teachers will be placed either at elementary or at the combined middle school. No one seems interested in the fact that there are only 2 6th grade teachers with multiple subject credentials at Murray Middle School. And that I haven't met a 6th grade teacher yet who's interested in returning or going to an elementary school classroom where they've never actually taught before. There's been no discussion on how combining 7th and 8th grade at one site will affect what teachers are currently teaching. The unanswered questions and lack of communication about how this will affect our day-to-day work environment is resting pretty heavy on our hearts right now. Sorry.
It's all right.
I want students to be safe. I want appropriate facilities. I want to work in a safe building. My issue is that you have dedicated teachers who have spent their entire careers teaching at the middle school level, and no one seems to want to acknowledge their concerns or provide real communication about their jobs. We absolutely want to put students first. Otherwise, we wouldn't have dedicated our professional lives to teaching. But our grave concerns about our futures are being ignored, and I think we deserve answers.
Thank you.
That's hard to follow. I'm Sherry K. Brownie. I'm a third grade teacher at Richmond Elementary. Dr. Moore has already been officially invited, but I am officially inviting the school board and community back to Richmond on Tuesday, the 20th, from 6 to 7 o'clock, where our third graders will present our Living Wax Museum, a program that has been put off to the side since, I believe the last time was 2019, before we lost our old campus. So,
Could you repeat the date and the time again, please?
Tuesday the 20th, right? The 20th? It's been a long day. From 6 to 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Hello, Jason Zaid, parent. I'm encouraged by seeing more alternative education opportunities. As a student, when I was in the school district, I didn't do the best in Burroughs, and I did move over to Mesquite. Those opportunities were there for me, and I did flourish taking some college courses that were not available in the high school. And concerns with the alternative schools doing that versus the high school, I think are a little overrated. And it's not to minimize teachers. Some of the courses that are provided are not available at the high school. So the students going there would not be taken away from the teachers currently. Just my thoughts on it. Also, a concern that I have is traffic. Now, something that was brought up about the Richmond campus, the Murray campus. Traffic is atrocious in the morning. I was wondering if there's something that we could do with maybe the city and shutting down the right-hand lanes, so the exiting of the loop that's there might speed up the process of getting the traffic out of the intersections. I personally have almost been in a couple accidents in the intersection and have tried to find ways to mitigate me even going near that intersection. To follow on that concern with Pierce and the new Richmond campus so close to each other on single lane roads, has there been any thought or process on mitigating that traffic to eliminate those risks in those areas? And that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Tristan Kratz. I'm a product of Sierra Sands Unified School District, and I'm currently a teacher at Burroughs High School. And 47 years of theater training is telling me that this is absolutely wrong. And as a teacher, if I'm to have a conversation with everybody, I don't turn my back on them. I need to be able to know that these people have as much say and are a stakeholder in what I have to say as the people in front of me. So it is very awkward because my instinct is to do this because they're part of me as well. I'm listening to the conversations tonight.
Could you step closer to the microphone?
It's
Thank you.
coming. That's why I backed up.
I think to try and turn it up is why I did it.
Okay.
So, thank you.
I've been going to our PLCs at our high school and paying attention to the issues with the dashboard, Aries Analytics, the things that they're asking teachers to do, and I'm hearing the conversation and the ideas that are being presented. Now, I am not hesitant to change. I love change. But I'm concerned about maybe there's a disconnect or a mismessage that is happening between what the district is envisioning and what we're trying to do at Burroughs. There is this pressure to make our graduation requirement something that is looking for the data to be defunct, which is this push for the A through G. So I'm hearing Mr. Cosner's presentation about how we need to be flexible, but yet Burroughs is being told you need to be absolutely inflexible, which feels to me like we are setting Burroughs and Burroughs students up to fail, especially if the data is saying that only 27% of our kids are A through G compliant right now, but we're being told make that work when the data is saying they don't want it. Maybe that's not the only path. That my understanding from our WASC mission statement is that we are, as educators at the high school, to get our kids ready to be career and college ready, and college is not just university, which is what the A through G is saying, is that we just have to have them university ready, not junior college ready, city college ready, or even other Cal State ready, or even technical school ready. So the focus seems to be very narrow, but the teachers, the conversations I have with my colleagues, and even the students are saying we need to expand. So where I agree that we need to do things differently, what I'm nervous about is that it sounds like we're setting up an institution that has been here for a long time and has benefited many, many people, self-included, to become exclusive rather inclusive and pushing things that might not be working. So I hope the conversation opens a little bit more rather than trying to impose a structure that we already know is not necessarily appropriate. And thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, President, Mr. Ferris, Ms. Moore, and community. My name is Ruby Hoya. I am a parent of a student at one of our schools. So my message is, please support our school safety. My daughter is a 12-year-old. She shares her day with me like any other child. She has shared with me the following. Mom, there was a fight. Mom, my teacher was told off by a student. Mom, a friend offered me a vape. Mom, this boy won't leave me alone. Mom, I told 2 teachers the boy is bothering me, but continues. Mom, I told admin the boy won't leave me alone. Mom, so-and-so want to fight me. What do I do? Mom, so-and-so pushed me, and I pushed them back. When is it enough? How many chances or data is needed to ensure that students who are sent to school to learn actually have the environment to learn? Please do better by allocating money to support admin and teachers with students who don't have family structures that are there to guide them with emotional regulation and or academics. Plan for these students because they are daily offenders who disrupt the learning environment in our classrooms. Teachers can't teach, admin can't suspend. Schools don't get funded without student attendance. So that's what I hear. That attendance of those students who are dysregulated is more important than my 12-year-old daughter attendance who is there to have a nice middle school experience. My daughter likes her teachers, but she tells me how those teachers are being mistreated by kids. 91% of attendance? Whoa, that's great. But parents are sending their kids sick. Parents get 7 days of reminders to excuse those absences. Parents are getting letters for attendance less than 90%. Parents don't want their child to miss school because they don't want to get in trouble with the school. So please do better for our community and our kids that are going to school to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what the chair is for. That's fine. It should work just fine.
We'll see. Maybe. Okay, we're gonna try it. We'll see. Brandy Kean. I am a data member. I'm probably gonna be really unpopular right now, but I am also a parent. And I am really excited about that opportunity for students in that middle college pathway. I do have 2 daughters. One of them graduated Burroughs with over 20 college credits. She is a freshman this year and was able to write off math and English, foreign language, economics, lots of classes that was a savings to our family. She passed those classes with A's and B's. I have a junior as well who is taking the gamut of AP classes that Burroughs has to offer. We appreciate that. But also partnering with the college is a really great opportunity. Not all students will go that path, right? There's welding, police, like health careers, all of those other things as well. But students in other counties have the opportunity to graduate with their AA, which is a huge savings to parents, right? And really, I'm thrilled that that's an option that you're even considering it. It's not a secret that I've been a loud advocate of that. I do have a junior, and she is doing exceptionally well. She took a college class this summer, plans to do another, and if Sarah Coso and Burroughs lets us, we will be her senior year as well. So I commend you for even considering that. No disrespect to my union members, but that is really how I feel as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? If not, we will move to item 6, Educational Administration. Nothing under Educational Administration, so we move to Policy Review Committee. Item 1, approval of updated board policies and administrative regulations. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. Our board Policy Review Committee met on January 31st to review and discuss several policies that you have under item 7.1 that the committee believes are ready for approval, just some updates. And we have, based on conversations and requests at the prior meeting, we were using red to indicate just the standard required elements or simple edits from Gamut, and blue to indicate any optional language, and be happy to discuss any of those further, but that's become part of the discussion in the committee. And one of the things that the committee is focused on is what is changing our practice versus things that we're already doing that we're just cleaning up language or codifying in our policies. So I appreciate our committee members and the intensive review. Happy to answer any questions about these or move forward.
Have any questions or comments on the Policy Committee's report? Mr. Rockwell.
I'm sorry if I didn't hear you right, but I think you mentioned that you're trying to focus on changes that are changing your practice.
In the discussion points, yes. So in the discussion of the committee, that's where we're looking at what's a significant change versus standard is what we're already doing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know, you're already doing a nice job of splitting out what's new versus what's optional and new. Maybe if you could almost highlight those areas where it's really changing what we're doing in the district. To me, that would be another kind of enhancement.
Yes, and thank you. And so our intention is moving forward to have the description. So our Board Policy Review Committee is a public meeting that's agendized with 72 hours notice and all of that. And those agenda items, our plan moving forward, starting with our next meeting, is to actually call it out in that overview. So we give the simplified version because we have the minutes and everything here, but at those meetings we're really trying to call out for clarity and transparency any of those. So I'm just looking at these other than there was one section to the political processes under business services. All the rest of them under this particular item were just standard practices or some new laws that really were more about appeal process for curriculum to the state. That doesn't really change what we do, And the rest of the curricular pieces are processes and protocols we already have in place for teacher review and selection and all of that. So that wasn't substantive. The one blue text item was the political processes option related to the new ballot process.
And I might add that the committee, we're refining this process as we go, and the intent is to truly give our policy changes the due it deserves, instead of just slapping the whole board with this big pile of reading, for us to be able to look at it a little more in depth. And so what we've done is the committee expressed to the presenters, if in the future as they bring these policies to us, they can not just identify the language, but kind of give us a quick synopsis of this would be done differently when we switch to this policy. Or this policy changes some specific laws, but it really doesn't change what we're doing because we're already doing this anyway. And that way it gives us a stronger ability to make a judgment as a board if these are policies we support or have concerns about. The other thing we talked about doing is, and I appreciate the minutes, these are in everybody's packet, correct?
Yes.
So what the minutes do, we've asked that they kind of be a little more specific about what the conversation revolved around, so that you can understand what things we considered or did not consider, and that way, when it comes to this forum, you can say, hey, something that crossed my mind that's not on here is this. Did we consider that? The other thing we talked about in giving direction to staff as we review the recommended changes is CSBA often makes recommendation based on the general philosophy of the California School Boards Association. And I think if you look through the documents that we presented today, there was a recommendation from CSBA that said the board must create a agenda for political action. While personally I support that, I believe that a policy in that regard ought to be permissive rather than mandatory. And so we made that recommendation to change that to the board. Well, I think it's important. I think that the permissive nature of that makes more sense. And so there are some changes that are brought to us that are really just motivated by change of law. And there are other changes that are brought to us that are philosophic and really are specifically board decisions. And so we wanted to highlight the difference there to make sure we understand when it comes to those situations where we're making decisions that are really within the prerogative of the board, that it ought to reflect what we really believe and what we are willing to pass on as far as policy concerned. While I support, I'm good with the must. I think if we're going to establish a policy and a bylaw that says this is what you must do, then you're obligating future boards to that. And I think the may gives each board the ability to do that, but future boards may decide that is not their specific focus. And I think they ought to have the ability to do that. So that's kind of the general nature of our conversation. I think it gives us opportunity to have an in-depth discussion on those policies, which, when you read all the rules and you read all the purpose of why we exist, that is really our primary function, is to setting our policies and our bylaws. And I think this gives us the ability to do that in a more meaningful way and to make them ours specifically when we have that opportunity. So I would invite feedback as we move forward on this process to let us know what's working, what's not, so we can refine it and truly give the appropriate focus on our policy changes as we do that. Does that make sense? Did anybody have any questions on that?
It does, and I really like the red and the blue. I mean, it's just straightforward. I mean, it catches your eye, and you can see what the differences are, and if there's something optional, and so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no,
Any other-
thanks. No, that's great, and I love where it's going. I mean, I think, like you said, we're refining it as we go, and it's already doing good things, and there's room for it to get even better. So, fantastic.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public?
I think the only other comment I'd make, and I think maybe we made it in.
I'm sorry, your opportunity was gone.
Oh, yeah, well. I'll grab it. No, this is the work of the board, right? So I just wanted to point that out. I mean, we talk about, well, I like the red and the blue, and it sort of sounds like kind of a silly thing, but it's important. And it's important because this is how we run the district. And this is, you know, there's you know, just a handful of things that the board is really here for, and this is definitely on that list of, you know, 3 or 4 things that the board is here to do. And so, while it sounds like administrivia sometimes, and it's dull and, you know, not very exciting most of the time, it's important, and we need to do this job well. So thanks for all you're doing to help us do it better.
I appreciate that, and I think it's important that we recognize that historically, because so many times it is overwhelming and boring, it doesn't get the attention it ought to, and sometimes things get lost in the pile that might otherwise have had some important discussion, and I think this gives us the ability to do that. So, any other questions or comments from anyone? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. I guess I should take the negative vote. Anybody opposed?
We have a motion?
No, we didn't have a motion. We probably have a motion. That'd be a good idea. Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Now I have a motion and a second, so we should vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Item 2, discussion and possible approval of revisions to Board Bylaw 9320, meetings and notices. Dr. Moore.
So one of the things that the Board Policy Review Committee chooses to do on occasion is say, this one needs to be discussed by the whole board. And so this is why we've called out this particular one. We discussed it. We actually looked at most of the revisions and discussed, you know, yeah, they're standard and straightforward. And there were a couple that we wanted to call out for discussion. I believe some of the new legislation and protocols we wanted to highlight, or Mr. Ferris wanted to speak to. But in particular, one of the comments and a future agenda item from our last meeting that was brought forward was the idea of changing the time of the meeting. And so we wanted to make sure that was a full board discussion. You can see that part is highlighted in yellow because it's not yet set. If we wanted to change, we can have that discussion. I will say preliminarily, we've asked staff and a variety of folks, would 6 o'clock be of interest? Would it cause any undue hardship? And everyone that I have spoken with has indicated that 6 o'clock would be a welcome shift if that's the will of the board, including all 3 of our labor partner presidents have indicated that they would support a shift to a 6 o'clock start, as well as our cabinet team that show up and principals as well to these meetings. So that's a piece of information. Certainly we haven't polled extensively, but we have tried to get a checkpoint or a pulse on would that be welcome, and it did seem to be a welcome change should that be the direction you choose to go. So offer this for discussion. If we come to a decision and you'd like to take action, we can do so, or we could bring it back. There's no urgency on this other than it's part of our process to clean up and have accurate policies.
So first, what I will do then is I will open the discussion for, let's take a motion first maybe, so I don't forget that later. As the verbiage stands today. So that's leaving the time as the same? Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the verbiage as is presented?
I have a question. So you're, after what she just said, that everybody wants it to be at 6, you still want it to be at 7? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you mean?
I didn't hear that everybody wants it to be at 6. I heard that they've polled a reasonable amount of staff and they would welcome that.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that everybody wants it.
Oh.
Did you say everybody wants it?
I have not spoken with everybody, nor have I surveyed them, so I would not be able to speak for everybody.
You spoke with data, you spoke with principals and teachers, and they all seem to want that.
Our staff units.
Okay.
Our staff units want it. And I've only spoken with a few parents and community that didn't seem to mind, but that's been a small number.
So I guess my question is I'm the one that brought it up last board meeting. That I thought it would be a better change, and my point being is that I know that I think most of the principals are required or supposed to be here or
Highly
wanted.
encouraged?
Highly encouraged would be the right word. And I don't know, to me, it's like they're the ones that are getting up and the teachers are getting up and everybody else is getting up at probably 6, 5:30 in the morning. And I think, 4, thank you, Ms. Carter. And I think that last meeting was a perfect example of a situation where it went on, I think it was at about 10 o'clock, 9:30. And by the time they get home, 10, 10:30, by the time they go to sleep, if they're, you know, I don't know, I don't go to sleep that fast, but it just seems like it's a logical thing for me. And so I don't know what the problem is meeting at 6, so I'd like to elaborate on why it is a problem for us to meet at 6 instead of 7.
So you have a couple of options here. You can speak against the motion. You can encourage the maker of the motion to amend his motion. Or we can vote this motion down and then propose an alternate motion.
So I made the motion, I think. So my suggestion was we should discuss it.
Yep.
You know, I don't think we should just say, well, no, screw you, we're going to start over.
I thought you said you wanted to keep it at 7.
He made the motion including what was printed,
Oh.
which does allow for discussion.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to lean on the maker of the motion to consider amending his motion to include a change to 6 o'clock based on what other opinions of the board members might be.
Yeah, to be honest, what struck me when this was suggested previously is that initially it came from people who are retired. You know, I work until, 6 o'clock, many, many, many nights, and I've got stuff I've got to get done, and there are times when, I run from my desk to this desk just to be able to make a 6:45 or a 7 o'clock meeting. And so it's not just as simple as saying, hey, let's make a change, it's all great. It could be a problem for some folks. Now, if the problem is only for me, then I'm absolutely willing to amend the motion. But if, I suspect there was a reason why we set it up at 7 to begin with.
Well, there's nobody at this table that's part of that we, I gotta say that.
I don't know if there's
there's
anybody
one.
that was here back in 1926.
I think it's when they invented the sundial that was actually done.
I guess, I'm just curious if was there any rationale for it other than Kurt has to work too late sometimes?
I can tell you that several people have talked to me about wanting to start it earlier because of kind of what I explained. They're all working out. Yeah, you're right, I'm retired, but I still do a lot of things where I work sometimes and don't get home until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on some other jobs that I do. But,
I know you do.
But I don't know, it just seemed like common sense to me, so that's all.
Might be.
Mike, you had a comment?
Yeah, when this came on up, I was actually employed then, only as of yesterday am I not employed.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yes, thank you. But I agreed with the change. I think it's earlier. I think it gets staff and everybody in and out sooner. I know sometimes work can possibly get in the way, and it just comes down to sometimes time management. If I had something going on that needed done, I'd go in a little bit early, but I think, and I'm speculating that back in the day, it's because the families got together and had dinner, and we had the meetings after all that, and I think times have changed. I think 6 o'clock is more conducive to everyone, possibly, maybe not
Or
one
most
person, yeah, so. But,
Well, so to be honest, all I wanted to do was have a conversation. So I'm more than happy to amend my motion to make it 6 o'clock.
Is the maker of the second willing to accept that amendment? That would,
Second.
Yeah, and,
So-
yeah, because I absolutely am happy to get people home earlier on these nights. I've traveled a lot to the East Coast, and I've been doing this on East Coast time, and I've been up till midnight, 1 o'clock, doing this, and wrapping up an hour earlier than that would be pretty phenomenal. So I'm good with it. I just wanted to make sure that there was no other concerns with the timing. Sounds
And-
like I'm the only guy that's in the way.
Well, I was just gonna say, we can also have the, when we have to have that meeting, we have closed sessions, we could always do that one afterwards, so you wouldn't have to come earlier than 6, you know, because I could understand that could be a problem if all of a sudden we have to have a 5:30 meeting and you're trying to get off from your job and get over here. So we could do that afterwards if that helps everybody out.
Yeah, and,
You know.
and again, that's, like I said, and I've amended the motion, so I'm okay with it, but, a lot of times in those closed sessions, we have, attorneys and, other folks that are, hanging around to talk to us, and so having them come back at, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night instead of 6 o'clock, 6:30, it's, but I think all of that's small, right? So, I'm done talking about it.
No, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your position on the coming from work. To be very honest, I think my opinion was somewhat altered by my change in work environment as well, so.
I thought it might.
Yeah, it's less of an issue for me now than it was before, so. But I do think there's a real value in, particularly in all our staff folks, getting them out earlier, and I think for the one meeting a month that we do it, we can probably find a way to get here earlier, and so I would support that change. Any other discussion points or issues of change on the policy that people are concerned about or have comments on? The one point I did want to point out, and I can't find it as I'm scrolling through.
The first page.
Pardon?
It was the first page.
Section, first big red section.
Okay, I just wanted to bring out this discussion. I know we have two new board members, and often we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we negotiate making sure we're compliant with the Brown Act, and when can we have discussion or comment, when can we receive information, and I think this distinction points it out pretty well. And I think the important principle to remember is the purpose of the Brown Act is to make sure that the public has access to all discussion toward a conclusion. And so it's important that the board does not have discussion towards conclusion absent the presence of the public, so they can understand what we're considering and why we're considering it. And I think that's an important process for us to protect in the way we govern. And this particular verbiage spells out pretty clearly that it is permissible for information to be shared, so that when we go into a discussion and that we have a full understanding of what we're deciding on. But what's not allowed is a sharing of positions of other board members on that issue. So for instance, if staff shares with us, this is what we're looking at doing, and by the way, Mike and Kurt are totally behind this, that would be an inappropriate discussion. Everyone needs to be coming into the discussion with an open mind about and a full understanding of what we're going to discuss and make a determination on, but not a front-loaded position on how others feel about it. So I think that verbiage was real important as I read it to help develop that understanding so we know what we're protecting as far as the public's right to know. So I wanted to highlight that in our discussion this evening. Any other questions or comments on those policy revisions or changes? So as the motion is amended, we would change the time to 6 o'clock for our meeting. You will notice also that a number of years ago, the board changed to one meeting a month rather than 2 meetings a month, and the board policy never was changed. So at least this time we're changing the policy as we change the practice, which is a good thing. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Dr. Savko.
Good evening, and I don't want to be accused of lengthening this discussion, but I thought you might be aware that all of our other public meeting times, so open houses and back-to-school nights, occur at 6. So that might lend some consistency. I just wanted to share that with you.
I appreciate that. So evidently, parents are good with the 6 o'clock time in general.
Tired of being piled on, man.
So how's it feel to be wrong, Kurt?
Ouch.
Yes.
I just wanted to say when I
For
got
the record, just your name. Thank you.
Sylvia, parent and president. When I got the text message from Dr. Moore earlier, first I didn't know who it was because I didn't have her number saved in my phone. And then she told
Ooh,
me
you
who it
probably
was.
shouldn't admit that in public. I'm just saying.
But we email each other. So when she said it, I was like, heck yeah, because I'm a single mom. I got 2 kids out there that it's past their bedtime already. I don't always bring them, but being a single mom, it's hard to get a babysitter at 7 o'clock at night. So I was all for the meeting changing to 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? Brody, yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask, if you were going to make this change, when would it come into effect?
I believe probably the next meeting, but I'm not sure.
If we take action today, the thought was the next meeting, but we could make adjustments. It's up for discussion.
I was just going to say, you know, if it does come into effect right now, it's kind of awkward for me because that means I've got to miss. Because like today, I left a practice early to get here. That'd mean I'd have to miss it entirely because I'd like to give myself an hour of time so I can get ready, all that.
And your practice is for what sport?
Track.
And that ends when?
6:30.
No, when does the date of your season? Your practices?
I've got it down somewhere I could probably check, but.
End of the school year, basically.
End of the school year?
Just about, so.
Well,
to me, a 6 p.m. time just makes it a little more awkward on the schedule. I've got to be like, oh, hey, I've got to miss this. That could be problematic.
Could you do a little research? We voted to change the time. Let's do a little research on what difficulties it presents to change that immediately, or what might be an advantage to make the change a little later. We certainly want to accommodate our student board members if we can.
Will do. So I will follow up with you, Brody, and the team at Burroughs, and we'll see where we go.
And I want to thank you, Brody, for being with me.
So maybe, would we be comfortable, if we want to take action with a to-be-determined implementation no later than, say, June?
I think that makes sense, yes. And then if you come back with a plan that says we can do it this time, then let's move forward with it. If we need to delay it a little bit, that way future members know what they're committing to. He committed to this knowing it was a 7 o'clock meeting, so.
Yeah.
Couldn't you run a little faster once a month? Done earlier
Unfortunately, I do not believe so. Because, it'd be like getting there and then like immediately leaving. So.
I know one of our considerations when we were with staff considering the start time was that our May meeting tends to be a lengthy one with the honoring of staff. And it's kind of almost a pre-meeting. And so maybe that's part of the compromise.
And that might be a good time to do it.
We could start, with the pre-meeting and the celebrations at 6 perhaps, but the standard meeting, there are options.
And then in June, Institute full, yeah. Mm-hmm. So check that out and report back to us. At this point, we probably will have a 7 o'clock meeting next meeting, and then with a report as to when might be the best implementation. Is everybody okay with that? All board members all right with that approach? Okay, then I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. And thank you, Brody, for your participation once again. I really appreciate the fact that you're active in these meetings.
Especially when you're with me.
And Kurt really appreciates it. That brings us to Personnel Administration. Item 1, presentation of initial sunshine contract proposal for the 24-25 from Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association, CSEA, to the Board of Education. Mr. Ald.
President Ferris, Superintendent Dr. Moore, members of the board, staff, and community. The Chapter 188 of the California School Employees Association has already submitted its initial sunshine contract proposal for the 2024-25 school year to the Board of Education. Had a slight change in how we do that operation. In the past, it would be handed over, but it's been uploaded and you have a copy of it in your packet. So Sylvia does not have to come give another speech unless she wants to. Financial implications are unknown. It's recommended that the board receive the initial Sunshine contract proposal from Chapter 188 of CSEA as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we officially receive that document. Any questions or comments from members of the board? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to general administration, approval of school safety plans for 23-24.
Every school in the district has a comprehensive school safety plan developed in accordance with education code requirements and that follows the guidelines set forth in the State Emergency Management System and the National Incident Management System, as well as recommendations of Safe Schools, a planning guide for action prepared jointly by the California Department of Education and the Office of the Attorney General. In accordance with Board Policy Administrative Regulation 0450 and the Education Code, each school has reviewed and as needed revised and updated their school safety plan. Plans were also reviewed by staff and school site councils and site safety committees and first responders. The revisions were first approved accordingly at the site level. The school safety plans meet the requirements of the Education Code and the board policy and are being submitted to the Board of Education for approval. These are very lengthy documents and as such are available for review in the Human Resources Office or individually at the school sites prior to the February 15th meeting. The financial implications, there are none, and the recommendation is that the board approve the 2023-24 school safety plans as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 2, authorization for board member travel to the annual school trustees winter dinner meeting of the Kern County School Boards Association.
Move recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members?
Just pointing out that I did this relatively quickly. We usually talk about these things, but it's $200. So.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Any other questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. It brings us to item 2, California School Board Association Delegate Assembly election. Dr. Moore.
Yes, so we are Region 12 of the CSBA, and they alternate delegates. So our own Kurt Rockwell will continue to serve. His seat is not up yet, but the 2 seats that are up are currently open, and we have the opportunity for you to vote for one or both or neither of the candidates open. It's Anthony Fuentes of Bakersfield City School District and Pamela Jacobson of Standard School District. And so this is an opportunity for discussion and potential action. I think, Brody, are we heading out? Thank you for
Brody,
everything.
thank you. And again, I want to commend you on your participation in our meeting. Your thoughtful comments and your additions are very welcome, and we believe that's why you're here. So thank you so much for that.
Amen.
And thank you for sharing him with us. So, do we have a motion?
Well,
I have a motion if you don't.
I move that we put Pam Jacobson forward.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I would like to speak to that motion. I wholeheartedly support Pam Jacobson in the role. I do believe the other board member, although new, is a member of the Bakersfield City School District, which is a very large school district in Kern County, who is currently not represented on the delegate assembly. And so I would support that person's appointment as well. One of the reasons that I do this, like I say, is because of they deserve to be represented on that body. And the second self-serving reason is if only one person is elected, I have to appoint somebody. And sometimes it's difficult to find people to appoint. So, so I would encourage that we vote for both.
You're telling me I'm wrong again and I need to amend my motion again?
I'm surprised that you're surprised at that. But.
I'm not surprised. I'm just making sure everybody sees how I get treated up here.
How abusive I am?
Yeah. No,
that's fair.
So the reason I did what I did was probably.
1 year.
Pretty clear to at least you is, over my last year and a half or so of being on the delegate assembly, I've certainly, worked with Pam, and she's really good. And I was concerned about Mr. Fuentes only being a board member for a year, because, at that point in your time, I remember way back then, I didn't really even know how to be a board member after a year. So to assume that, this gentleman is, and I should say that's not just because I'm an idiot, but that seems to be fairly consistent with most people I know that get elected to the board.
Let me agree with you right now, just so we can have that little bonding moment, okay?
Yeah, right. That's good. I won't believe it, though, so it doesn't work. If you don't even know how to be a board member after a year, then being a credible voice in the delegate assembly, is concerning for me. And I don't know Mr. Fuentes at all. He could be phenomenal. He could be, he could have it nailed. I'm sure some people do. We had a guy wanting to run for CSBA board of directors after, being on a board for like 2 years or something like that. So, it could happen. I sympathize with you in your concern about having to appoint somebody, but.
So in response to your concern, and I agree, it's a legitimate concern. There is, however, I mentioned the factor of the size of Bakersfield City, and they need to have representation. As a matter of fact, until just recently, they had an automatic representation. Their student population just dropped below that threshold, so they no longer have the designated. But the other critical factor to me is it's important to have people serve on the delegate assembly who have desire to serve.
Sure.
So he took the initiative to file a paperwork to apply. If I go out and solicit at this point, I'm leaning on people who did not take the initiative, who may be willing to serve, but may not necessarily have the specific interest to serve. I will say currently we have a vacant position because the last person that lost their seat, I was not able to find someone who had interest. So that to me, it weighs it enough in that direction that I would be inclined to encourage us to support both.
Yeah, and I don't want to keep beating on it, but I guess my continued concern is what I would wholeheartedly agree that Bakersfield City should be represented. Is somebody with 1 year's experience going to represent them well or poorly? They'd be better off not being represented if they're going to be represented poorly. And having only seen, a paragraph and a half or whatever of, what.
Doesn't give you a lot to go on, does it?
It doesn't give you a lot to go on to feel good that it's going to happen. But, I guess at the end of the day, just like on a board or in the delegate assembly, one person can't screw it up that bad, although I try.
So you've heard from both Kurt and myself. Any other comments from other board members on this issue?
Well, Fuentes, I see that he was a career classroom teacher, which I think gives a lot of insight of actually what really goes on inside a classroom. When you're there every day, dealing with everyday problems and excitement and rewards. So it's tough. I until someone's actually done a whole year in a teacher's shoes, you never know.
Important point.
Yeah.
So you would support both candidates?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have those teachers because they do have the insight that you don't get, and it's not a natural insight. It's something, yeah.
Mike, any comments?
Normally, I always fall back on you guys because I want to personally know that somebody knows the person and vouches for them.
Correct.
Fuentes, don't know anything about, but I understand, and you've made a very valid point of where we stand. Is this guy going to have other people in the delegate assembly to help guide him? Absolutely. So I have no problem trying to help you out, Bill. But
Robert, do you have any
whatever the
opinions on this?
motion is on this one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I decided to run for board, I think one of the biggest things, having 40 years of teaching, helped me out a lot when I started this job. But I will say that after 1 year, you learn a lot of things when you're on a board. So I imagine hopefully Mr. Fuentes has learned a lot of things in 1 year. And if he wants to do it and we can't find anyone to do it, go for it. Maybe, hopefully he does a great job, but we won't know until he tries. So I'm good for him.
And I will say that I do share Mr. Rockwell's concern to the degree that I would support either position. I just lean towards both. Sure. So.
And I guess what I, sort of the wimpy out on changing my motion to going with both is that I suspect that most of the districts aren't going to have this kind of conversation, and since they see 2 open spots and 2 people running, they're just going to slam them on through. So it's probably going to happen anyway. So I will amend my motion to vote for both candidates.
And the maker of the second?
Second.
Okay. Then I have an amended motion. Any other discussion on this issue? Understand the new motion is to support both candidates. Any discussion from members of the public or staff? If not, I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. And you're welcome. We've managed to drag this very short meeting out long.
How did we do that?
Sorry, folks. Sorry, but not sorry. It's important we do this right. That brings us to construction administration. Item 1, approval of. 9-4. Oh, how about we do approval of gifts to the district? We don't want to leave out your part there, Mr. Rockwell. Go for it.
Thanks. Let's see, the following gifts were received. American Lift Systems Incorporated made a cash donation of $1,000 to be used for the SSUSD Walk for Autism. And Dr. April Moore made a cash donation of $500 to be used for staff appreciation throughout the district. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move that we accept the gifts as described and send appropriate letters of appreciation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, board members? Questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Now we go to construction administration. 10.1, approval of Inyakern and Pierce preschool playground equipment replacements.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Smith.
So the preschool playgrounds at Inyakern and Pierce both need to be replaced, and SB 140 provided some additional funding to the preschool programs, and those funds can be used for any allowable expense. These 2 items, this item and the next item, are basically 2 steps that need to happen in order for us to get that funding to pay for that equipment. So this first item is giving us approval to go to the CDE and get approval to purchase the playground equipment. The estimated cost for the Inyakern play area is $117,510.83, and for Pierce, $135,178.68, for a total cost of $252,689.51, which would be submitted to the CDE for approval. The second item is a resolution that needs to be passed in order for us to purchase that equipment from Dave Bang Associates using a government procurement alliance piggyback contract. And in this case, you'll notice there's one additional piece of equipment, and the reason for that is that the CDE approval is only required for $7,500 items or greater, and that last item was less than that threshold, so that accounts for the difference in the items that are listed in the 2 board items. And so it is recommended that the board both approve the equipment replacement proposal and adopt resolution number 162324 to enter into the agreement with Dave Bang Associates for the purchase of the preschool playground equipment for Inyakern and Pierce.
And the chair would, thank you. Been a motion to move 1 and 2?
Second.
And seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Mike?
And I'm sorry, I didn't have this a question until prior till this evening. I know in swimming pools, when they put them together, nowadays they'll do the harness where they can put handicapped, help the handicap getting into the pools. And the conversation earlier tonight, I had never thought of that. Do they actually make playground equipment for a handicap?
I believe they do, and that's one of the requirements that CDE will require, is that some of that playground equipment is accessible for those students.
Okay, no, like I said, I just, until I heard that tonight, it really made me think about that since this was on the agenda, so, okay, thank you.
Mr. Rockwell?
The only question for me is in looking at the backup material, they show a color palette of all kind of dark colors. Summertime and the desert, dark colors on playground equipment seems sort of nonsensical to me.
So those were sample pictures of the playground equipment, and we haven't actually picked the colors that would be selected yet. Those are just samples that they show what the equipment would look like, and they just happen to pick those colors as the sample pictures. So we haven't made selections yet, but we can take into account that when we make the selection of the colors.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to business administration. 11.1, approval of resolution number 172324, authorization to increase the revolving cash fund.
So per board policy 3314.2, we have a revolving cash fund that we use for paying for goods and services and other charges, including supplemental payments required to correct payroll errors, and often credit card charges that need to be paid during midterm processing cycles. The current limit of the revolving cash account is $100,000, and it was established in November of 2019. Increasingly, over the past 4 years, we have had to replenish the revolving cash fund more frequently in order to maintain a balance necessary to meet the payments that we're making. And so approximately 10% of that revolving cash account is distributed to the sites as petty cash funds, and the remainder pays off basically the monthly credit cards, payroll emergency, fingerprint charges, and travel advances. We are requesting that the revolving cash fund level get raised to $150,000, which will help us manage that more efficiently.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. We will now move to item 13, in which we will temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to conduct the Inyakern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors. The only item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, so if there are no changes in that, they will stand as approved, and we will adjourn the meeting of the Inyakern Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting and reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to entertain the consent calendar.
Move the entire consent calendar.
The calendar has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? I did want to, again, draw attention, as Dr. Moore has, to the bittersweet moment. Happy for those folks who are able to do it, but sad to see some very long-term folks who have served this district well leave our service, especially in a time when we have such need of quality people. So,
Huge shoes to fill.
yeah, big shoes to fill, as I said. So
Yes.
I don't want that to go unnoticed at this meeting. Any other questions or comments from
I'm going to say
people
no.
on the board? Any questions or comments from people in the public?
No. I'm just kidding.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Do I have any requests for future agenda items?
I think Mr. Rockwell wants light pink for the playground equipment, is what he was talking about earlier.
Hey, I'm a spring, you know, I'm good with pink. Yeah, absolutely.
With purple.
Are there any serious requests for future? Hearing none, we will move to adjournment. The next meeting of the board is March 7th.
That is
at 7 o'clock.
You're just jealous that I look good in pink. And you're kind of suspect.
You're a handsome man.
Woo-hoo.